Welcome to another Taubmans live colour advice session. My name's Fiona, I'm the Taubmans colour specialist, and we're here this evening to talk all things colour. So for those that are joining us for the very first time, welcome, and for those that have joined us before, welcome back. So I'm going to let you know how the sessions roll. So for the first half an hour, I am on screen in front of the camera, sitting here ready to answer all of your colour questions. So it is a fantastic opportunity if you have any questions around colour, if you're embarking on a project and you'd like to know about some of our wonderful Taubmans products that can help to bring your project to life, or if you are wanting to know a little bit about, how you can work out a plan, etc., to paint a room, etc. You're doing a project, you're not quite sure where to start, etc. You can also ask that as well. So we'll do our very best while we're on screen to answer them for you. And I know that a lot of you love to share photos and images of areas that you're wanting to gain some help with, and you can do that, but there is a but. You cannot share them while we're live. It's just something that is within the Facebook world. So don't worry. So as I said, we're on screen for the first half an hour, and then after that we stop streaming live, but we sit behind the computer, and that's when you can upload your images, and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. So like every time we come on screen, what we like to do is we like to keep it real and make it all about you. So, and the way we do that is we have a look at all of our social media channels and we find the most frequently asked questions. And then we collate them, and then each fortnight when we come here, we like to bring them to life. So I do have a few here that I'll begin with, but as I said, I've been told that we are live, which is always good to hear. Sometimes we have some technical issues. So we are live, so you can use this as an opportunity now to pop your questions into the Facebook feed, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Okay, so look, we've had a lot of questions. Look, every single time that we are live, majority of our questions do revolve around some form of white. Now, I do know, and I say this quite often, that here in Australia we certainly have a love affair with white. We love to use it on the external facade, we love to use it on our interiors, and there's a reason why. It works really well, it's adaptable. I mean, our friends overseas love to sort of use colour and use lots of colour. We're not quite there yet, but the way trends are evolving are that we are seeing a lot more use of colour, because colour's a known fact to, it's very emotive and it can make you feel fantastic. And if you use that right colour in the right area, you can really, really elevate your space. But we're talking about whites. And look, there are so many whites, and we're always asked, I don't know where to start with whites. It's really confusing. I stand at a colour wall, and I hear you. I know you stand at a colour wall and there is just a world of white, and it's like, how do I know which one works for me? So the best way is to, I guess, understand what else exists within your space. So have a look around your home and look around the area that you're going to paint. What colour are your window frames? If we're working with creamy tones, then sometimes your white is going to be more on the warmer side. If you've got dark window frames, it's pretty much a blank canvas, depending on whether it's a, I'll reference Colorbond because a lot of window frames are powder coated in Colorbond colours. And so there's quite a myriad of greys or dark greys, and depending on whether it's a green undertone, which is something like woodland grey, if you had that on your window frames and you're looking to paint your interior walls, I would be recommending that you look at more of a neutral style white. And then if you've got blue window frames, for example, you might have something like deep ocean. You could use a cooler style white as well. There's also other things to consider, and that is if your house or your space gets a lot of natural light, you can go for a cooler toned white, and it works really well. If the space that you're wanting to paint white lacks a lot of natural light, you might be better off using a warmer toned white because it's going to play better in that room. So these are the things to start to consider before you go and begin your journey. And then the other thing I always say when you are going into that hardware store, for example, Bunnings, and you're about to go and play, at the Taubmans colour wall and you're looking at all the whites, go armed. Take a white piece of computer paper with you. And the reason I say that is when you start putting all of your white colour chips together, they can tend to all look the same. But when you put them against a really clean, bright white piece of paper, hence the computer paper, you can start to see the undertone within that white colour chip come to life. So that's kind of how you can begin your shopping journey. Now the next thing, when you've selected some whites and you've selected a few variants of the whites that you like, take them home, have a look at them in your space, and then if you're going to narrow it down to say 2 or 3, I then suggest getting a sample pot, because whites in your home will look different. And I have been at a colour wall in store and I've talked to lots of consumers, and one of the things we hear quite often is like Jane down the road has, let's just say, Miss Universe in her space. It looks fantastic. I've used it in my home and it doesn't look the same. I'm not happy with it. And that can be because of, when you're selecting a white, taking in the elements that exist. So I've already mentioned your window frames, but things like your flooring, things like your furniture, they can all help to influence the white. So the best thing you can do is to get yourself a sample pot of the whites that you've kind of narrowed it down to. Get yourself a large piece of cardboard and you're going to paint 3 coats out onto that cardboard. And so you're going to then test it. So once dry, and normally I'd talk about using Taubmans Endure as an interior wall paint, and that's a 2-coat system. But because we've got bare cardboard, I'm saying to give our piece of cardboard 3 coats. So the first coat's going to aid as an undercoat, if you like. And then those 2 top coats are going to ensure we get good adequate coverage so you can really test the colour. You're going to get that true colour. So getting a large piece of cardboard, here is your wall, here is your floor, putting your sample up against the wall so that it's touching the floor, looking at it in natural light. So natural light is when you see colour in its truest form. And that's going to allow you to see how that colour is going to work within your space. The other thing to then do is test it under artificial lighting. So as you're getting into the later part of the afternoon, you're putting your lights on and having a look at how it performs again. So what you're doing is you're educating yourself on how this white's going to work in your environment. Now you can try that in many areas of your home, but the other place too, so many rooms, many spaces in your home, against the wall, touching the floor. Then you've got your wall, this time here's your ceiling, so you're putting your sample against the wall so it's touching the ceiling. And again, we're talking about looking at your white in natural light, but then again with your lights on, so you've got that artificial light, so you can see how your white again is going to play in your space. Really, really important. So the tips for you when you're going down to the hardware store and you're looking for a white, go armed with a piece of computer paper, so that then when you start to look at your whites, you can see the undertone. But also before you do that, do your homework, have a look what sits within your environment. If you've got a lot of blue, you've got sort of even deep ocean windows, as I said, you might be better off with a cooler toned white. If you've got warmer style, so creamy coloured window frames, something like that, you might be better off with a white that sits on the warmer side. And then if you've got darker toned window frames, and even as I referenced before, something like woodland grey, you might be better off with something that has more of a neutral undertone. And again, neutral, I'll just touch on neutral. When we talk about neutral undertones in whites, when you're looking for a white, and if you're really not sure, beginning with a neutral style white is a really easy place, or the best place to begin, because a neutral style white, which is a white that tends to have that neutral undertone, so it's not cool, it's not warm, it's kind of somewhere in between, and it will pair back beautifully with most colours and most elements. And my favourite would be having a look at something like Taubmans Alpine Snow, and also you can actually find them in, let's have a look, this is a really good place to start. Having a look at this is our whites and neutrals colour card, and you'll see here, you'll see some dark, some grey squares around particular colours, and this donates to our top whites. So if you're not sure, have a look at a colour called, I did say, where are we? There's Aspen Snow, which sits into the neutral sort of phase. But the number one white, and the reason it's the number one white is it just pairs back beautifully with everything, is this colour here, which is called crisp white. This is our #1 white for Taubmans, and it is the easiest, most adaptable white. I recommend it all the time. And what makes it so fantastic is when you look at so a white starts out with a white base. So I'm going to reference Taubmans Endure. It's going to start out with a brilliant white base. And from that, we add different variants of tint, so little bits of color to get this overall end result, so to speak. So it's a little bit like making a cake. You know, you've got a little bit of this, a little bit of flour, egg, etc. You've got a recipe to create that. Same sort of thing, we have a recipe to create these colors. It's actually known as a tint formula, but we can call it a recipe. And so crisp white has one tint, and it is a tint that is called raw umber. And raw umber, when you look at it, I'm going to say it, it's kind of a murky brown, but what it does is it's just a little bit of raw umber into a white base. It creates the most wonderful white that has a very soft glow, and it's very adaptable. So to help you begin your white journey, have a look at crisp white. Honestly, you cannot go wrong. So I do have a question here from Lorraine. Hi Lorraine, thanks for joining us. You're wondering about lime wash paint on walls. We actually don't have a particular lime wash within our portfolio of products. So we have like broad wall interior, which offer full coverage, but we don't have a lime wash. I can certainly take this offline and see if I can help you in some other way and see whether there is something that can emulate a lime wash for you, and that's something that I'd have to park and come back to you after. Thanks, but if there's anything else we can help you with, please feel free to pop something into the feed. Okay, and you know, the second most asked question, believe it or not, is around greens. So you would have heard me talking many times if you've joined us before around green. Green has been coined one of the new neutrals. So we're moving away from the neutrals, which are primarily known as beige sort of tones, and we're seeing a lot of green being used and being used very successfully. Green is a color that is very calming. It creates a very relaxing atmosphere. We're seeing it trending through kitchens, a lot of kitchen cabinetry, and a lot of that fluted sort of timber that people are putting onto island benches, painted in green, looks spot on. We are seeing a lot of your sage style greens still very much in play. And so for those that don't know what a sage style green is, a sage style green is anything from a silvery sort of, how can I put it, a silvery succulent style green to a going into sort of a eucalypt style green, even going into, depending on your interpretation, going into a mint style green. So there's quite a variance. There are some beautiful greens in play. So I suggest having a look, I'm going to make it really easy tonight, at our interior color and having a look at, having a look here. We've got some of the most beautiful greens sitting within, I'm back to front when I'm on camera, sitting within this space here and then moving over to here. So we've got Boston Ivy, and then Highland Meadow would happen to be one of my favorite sage style greens. It looks fantastic. This is a wonderful green. Coupled with, if you're wanting something slightly more grayed off or more tonal, so have a look at the color that sits opposite, which is called Lazy Days. These are the style of greens that we're seeing being utilized a lot. We are starting to see more intense greens like Boston Ivy. There are also some fantastic greens available in our latest 2025 color trends. And one of them that I really do quite favor is a color that is called dark green velvet. That's another beautiful, relaxing green. Can be used to, you know, you can do what's called color drenching, where color drenching looks fantastic. You can paint your ceiling, your walls, your doors and trims all in the same color. And that works beautifully with a dark style, such as dark green velvet. Even, you know, if you wanted to do that with something like Boston Ivy as well, it would look fantastic. So there's a couple of greens there to have a play with. And we also do have a new Taubmans website. And if you go there and have a look at our colors, and if you click on the green icon, there are a world of beautiful greens that sit along the top. That's also another great place to start. Thanks. Okay, hi Ellie, thank you very much for joining us. You're saying, what's a white that looks grey but not blue in low natural lighting, please? Okay, yeah, you've used white on white and it has a blue tinge. Understandably. Okay, let me have a look for you. In natural lighting. If you've used white on white, which is quite... Have a look at White House. We're looking at it here now. Bear in mind that it's lit up like a Christmas tree in this space, so everything's going to appear brighter. And when you're looking at colour on a screen, it's not always accurate, but white on white would look fantastic. Oh, sorry, white on white, White House. Why am I saying that? Because I'm reading white on white there. White House, which is a Taubmans fantastic colour here. That would be a place to start. Now, followed by... I'm just thinking whether you went south. You could have a look at South Pole. It might be a little bit more neutral, so it may not be grey enough for you. Definitely White House, I think, is going to give you the look that you want, but do have a look at South Pole as well. And I'm going to show you that here again, lit up like a Christmas tree in here, so it's going to be hard to actually see the colour, but I would suggest just popping down to your local Bunnings. I know that South Pole and White House are chipped and on our colour wall, so you'd be able to view them there. Here's South Pole here as well. But I do tend to think that White House could potentially be a winner for what you're looking for. So I hope that helps. If you'd like any more advice, just pop another question into the feed. Thanks. So Kimberly, hi, thanks for joining us. You're saying any advice with pairing paint colours with natural floorboards? Okay, so can you give me a little bit more information? So what kind of, because natural floorboards, you've got things like Tassie oak, which tend to have quite sort of, some of it has, there can be some quite pink tones running through it. So do you know the type of timber that you have? Because obviously there's variance with timber. If you can let me know that. Otherwise, I would suggest that we look more into the neutral style space. I think that you're welcome, Ellie. Thanks for joining us. I think that a neutral style colour is going to pair back with your natural timber floorboards. So are you after a white, Kimberly, or something like that, or are you after colour? So let me know a little bit more and I can certainly elaborate. Thanks. I'll just wait until Kimberly comes back, but let's just have a look and see whether I can. See where the South Pole is in here. Okay, so Ellie, you can also find White House in our, just in case you're going to hop down to a hardware store and have a look, our Whites Are Neutral as well has White House in here. And I'm pretty sure, let me just see if it's got South Pole. Yeah, so there's White House and South Pole in our latest colour card and they sit side by side. So if you grab yourself one of these, as I just said, the whites and neutrals, you'll find a world of wonderful whites in there. Okay, so you're after, okay, thank you, Kimberly. So light blonde Baltic pine, and are we looking for a white or are we looking for colour? If that helps, let me know and then I can elaborate and give you some more ideas. I'm thinking, I'll start with white just in case before you. So you've got light blonde Baltic pine. I would suggest having a look. I think something's coming through now. White or colour. Okay, no worries. Okay, so you could go for, as I said, I would go for a neutral style white to begin with. And I would recommend having a look at, actually, the colour that I just mentioned a moment ago. South Pole would be one. But you can also have a look at, this is one of my favourite, very soft neutral style whites. There's a colour here called Alpine Snow, which is the third one down. This is going to pair back beautifully with your natural timber. So you could use that effectively, you know, You could use it on your ceiling, walls, doors and trims if you like. Entirely up to you. Another fantastic colour, and I mentioned this one earlier on and I'm going to say it again, is a colour called Crisp White. That is going to pair back beautifully as well. It has a very soft glow to it. And again, you could use that ceiling, walls, doors and trims and it would look spot on. Now, if you're looking for colour to work with light blonde and Baltic pine, and something to pair back with a couple of those whites that I have already mentioned, you could go, I guess you could go quite a few ways really. If you're looking for colour, there would be nothing wrong with introducing, which is very much on trend at the moment, and I think you're going to see it around for quite a while, a beautiful deep sort of wine, something like for feature walls or even painting. I'm imagining with your timber and perhaps in a living area or something like that, you could go for this colour here, which is called Rebel Wine. That is going to give you a wonderful luxe look. Okay, so your next question, fantastic. That's a very good question. So, okay, leading to my next question, you're saying, thank you, Kimberly, I don't know whether to paint all 3 bedrooms the same colour, white or colour, or can you paint all 3 rooms differently, or does that look weird? It doesn't look weird at all. You could paint all 3 rooms in a different colour or hue. It would look fantastic and fine. The only thing I would suggest if you were going to do that is so that you've got some connection. It may be that you paint, say you painted the walls all in, for example, like the colour I just showed you. I'm not saying to do this, but just an example, like with the Rebel Wine. I would then say, so you've got cohesion running through your entire colour scheme. You could, if you wanted to, for example, use Alpine Snow through the hallway, and say you wanted to put it on your doors and your trims, I would then suggest, if you wanted to, you could in those rooms having different colours, but having cohesion by having your doors and trims perhaps the same colour throughout. So you've got connection. That's just one way. Or you can colour drench and do the whole entire room, being ceiling, walls, doors and trims in each room, a solid colour. It's entirely up to you. I mean, colour's very personal, but you could use, if you're going to do that in bedrooms, something like this would look fantastic as well. So I'm just giving you suggestions, bearing in mind the colour of your flooring. Is it an older style home? Are we looking at a period style home? Is it a modern style home? I'm just gathering, perhaps with Baltic pine, perhaps it's an older style home. Let me know and I can sort of elaborate on some more. But something like this as well would look fantastic. You could use something like Fetching Pink in a bedroom, fantastic tone. You could also go for some wonderful even something like for a bedroom. So you've written hallway for cohesion. So are you meaning, sorry Kimberly, are you talking about using the same colour, that you using a different colour in the hallway, or are you referring to where I was talking about perhaps having, if you're painting your 3 bedrooms in individual colours and then having, for cohesion, having your doors and trims the same colour? That was just an example. And then if you wanted to, you could also use that, the same colour that you have on your doors and trims through the hall. This is just ways of connecting your space with colour. It's entirely up to you though. You can certainly use a different colour for the hallway as well. I mean, the other thing that people do, and it works really well, is they have a, I'm just seeing a message pop up here. Ah, beautiful, 100-year-old with 3.1 metre ceilings. I was gathering that it was probably an older home with Baltic pine ceilings. Do you have, I'm just imagining this, do you have a dado or a picture railing, etc., ceiling roses on the ceiling, anything like that? Because if you've got your ceiling coming down to a picture rail and then having your walls, you could do your ceilings. You can do it 2 ways. You could do your ceiling going down to a picture rail in a deeper colour, and then you could have your walls in a lighter tone. I've seen that. That works really, really well as well when we're talking for older, more period style homes. But I am thinking, given the age of the home, and I'm starting to imagine what it could potentially look like, you could use colours that are more tonal. When I mean tonal, so tonal colours are colours that tend to have more grey. So you've got your tint, tone and shade, and anything that is tonal has more of a grey undertone, or the colour slightly greyed off. And those sorts of tones, they are timeless, but they do work really well in your older style homes. Okay, so Anne-Marie, you're asking, are softer coloured feature walls better than a bold colour? It's entirely up to you. I mean, feature walls, there's a lot of debate. Are feature walls in? Are they not in? And look, they still are in. Colour, as I mentioned, colour's a very personal choice, and you use colour strategically placed throughout a home to create a focal point. And feature walls look fantastic, and especially if you're doing a bedroom, they look wonderful behind the bed because it creates that focal point. So, you know, softer colours work really, really well, but some bold colours can work well also. It depends on the style of the home, the look that you're wanting to achieve. But sometimes bold, darker tones can work really well as well. And if you're putting feature walls into a bedroom, using darker tones like blues and greens can be very relaxing and help to create that sort of relaxed aesthetic, which is what we want when we've got a bedroom. So personal choice. I can certainly, Anne-Marie, offer you some wonderful colour suggestions if you want to let me know a little bit more about where you're wanting to place some feature walls, be it bedroom, etc., and what else exists within the space so that we can ensure I can give you some great colour suggestions. Okay, Kimberly, you said you answered it. Thank you. So, yeah, I would suggest, if you've got a period style home as you have, using some more muted or grayed off tonal colours are going to look fantastic. So I'm happy to, if you want to give me a little bit more information, I can give you some fantastic colours. Even Kimberly, if you want to, when we finish streaming in 3 minutes, upload some images or a couple of images of the space that we're talking about, which just gives me a better idea, and then I can help you with colour placement and also ensure that I'm going to give you some fantastic colour choices. So if you're happy to do that, I'd be very happy to continue the conversation and help you further. Thank you. Okay, let me see what else we have on here. I think I've nearly got all the questions. It's been a pretty quiet night, but I still managed to talk, as I always do. But going back to feature walls, yeah, feature walls are fantastic, and it's a great way to inject colour into a space. So you create your cohesion by having your home, and a lot of people do this, painted that one colour throughout. It works really, really well. And then you can create variances by using various colours for feature walls. Now, for a bedroom, it might be that you're going to draw inspiration from artwork that may be on a wall. You may have a particular big window that, you know, has got a wonderful coastal outlook or a bush setting, etc. And it can be from that you can draw some colour inspiration. So it's a really good opportunity to bring the outdoors in, and it seems to be a thing at the moment. But the other way as well, if you're looking for inspiration for a feature wall for a bedroom, have a look at your Duna cover, and, you know, extracting colours out of that. For example, I've got a fantastic soft white, off-white Duna cover that's got a beautiful green palm trees. And so painting a feature wall for me is, and I'll show you the colour that I have used. We've actually created a bed head and painted this particular colour because it pairs back really well with our Duna cover. And this is a wonderful, again, this is a tonal colour. I talk about tonal, so slightly greyed off. They work really, really well. This is the colour that works for me. So it's a colour called Palm Frond. It is the third one down. Here it is here, and it looks fantastic. So if you're wanting a soft grey, a soft green grey, perfect for a bedroom setting, this is a fantastic colour. Okay, so Anne-Marie, thank you. You're saying feature walls in a bedroom with mahogany furniture. Okay, can you let me know what colour what do you have on your flooring? Just to give me a little bit more information. So what do you have on your flooring? Are there any particular colours, etc., on your window furnishings or your curtains or blinds, whatever it may be? And what other colours exist within this space? So what other colours do you have on your walls that I would be looking to give you some feature wall colours to pair back with? Let me know and I'll give you some fantastic options. Thank you. And yes, Kimberly, Taubmans do external paint colours. So pretty much all of our colours can be tinted to interior and exterior. There may be a few exceptions, but that will certainly be called out if you, once you pick up a colour chip, you'll be able to understand whether it can be used for interior only or exterior. But as I said, pretty much all of them. But what I would begin with is, have a look at this, our exterior colour guide. There are some fantastic colour selections in here. And the way it's been worked is because we know our ColourBond colours, or ColourBond colours are the most popular colours for exterior. So you'll see here in the centre, here is, where are we? There's 3 rows of ColourBond colours that go that way. But if you look at the colours that go in a line, so you could potentially, here we go. Here I have the ColourBond colours that sit here are designed to work with the colours that all sit in this row. So you can create colour schemes very easily, or basically they have been created for you. And you can continue to do that working your way through the inside of the colour card. So in those 2 middle panels, so you've got colour schemes running through the centre. So now running vertically. Now on this side here, we have some of our top exterior dark colours, a few more colours here that are designed to be a little bit more traditional, if you like. And then when you go over to this side, we've got some fantastic whites that are designed for your trims. So window trims, door trims. And then down here, we have 6 of our top exterior colours designed to be suitable for front doors, because when we start talking front doors and we're looking at new front doors, a lot of front door manufacturers have stipulations around the level of colour that can be placed on a door. It can't be too dark. If it's too dark, it can draw too much heat and the timber door can potentially twist and warp. So we look at what's called LRV, which is light reflectance value. So all of the colours in this section here are perfect for front door application. So this is a great place. Look, it's a great place for anybody that is beginning an exterior painting journey. And then when you flip that over, it tells you the perfect product to use to bring your project to life. I hope that helps. Kimberly, let me know if we can assist you any further. Okay, that is it for this evening, everybody. I'm going to stop streaming live, but I'm still going to be sitting behind the computer. I know there's a few more questions that have popped up, so I will answer them for you. Don't go away. I'll be back very soon. But thank you very much for joining us this evening, everybody. We'll be back in a fortnight again for another live colour advice session. Until then, if you've got any colour questions, you can send them through to us and I'll do my very best to answer them for you in the meantime. But until then, everybody, thanks for joining us. And as I always say, stay safe and happy painting. Bye.